Just make sure this all running. Yeah, boy. Wow. Yeah, seems like there won't be an intro or anything, or like, you know, the intro card thing.
I mean, is that really necessary?
No, I don't think so. I
I
guess
don't
it
think,
helps I guess if you're like a big streamer, I guess it makes sense. But like Jin, like he kind of suggested it as an option. I guess it's nice so you can kind of chill while people show up, right? But it's not the most important thing in the world. So yeah. But yeah, essentially, one of them had to go kind of last minute, so it was a bit unfortunate. Because if I had known before today, I could have had more time to prepare.
it actually kind of annoys me because I had made, I was planning this to work out. I dedicated the entire day to somebody else.
Yeah. Well, as I said though, you wouldn't have had to do it though. I could have done it on my own, but I do appreciate it though. Still, I do appreciate it a lot. So yeah, hello. So this time, the idea was, well, last time when we finished the last stream, we said that this week would be something quote unquote special. Well, then life hits you basically and says, nah man, you ain't doing that. So that plan is full bar now. So we, or rather I suppose, kind of decided on the spot, well, if I can't do the special thing, I'm gonna do it next week. And then instead of, because we were supposed to do the Abyssos thing next week, right? So kind of figured, okay, well, let's just do it now then, right? Kind of makes sense. And so I kind of, that's why we only have Velvet, because it was pretty last minute. And even Velvet.
Yeah, and I barely even had time to show up.
Yeah, you literally showed up like 2 minutes ago.
I literally almost considered saying that I wasn't gonna come, but I figured that I want to be here for the chat and for the baker and any newcomers as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Why?
I am here. I haven't prepared anything though, so I'm kind of just reacting actually.
Yeah, it's fine. I prepped some stuff, but I do appreciate it though. Even though it's very, very last minute. But you know, I guess sometimes you just gotta improvise, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very good at that. It's just that I also came just off like a very frustrating situation, like immediately, because I don't know if you ever played GTA 5. I was doing a heist in GTA 5. Honestly, it's literally rating. It's literally rating difficulty. Like, it literally feels like you're doing Savage in level 14. It's really fucking hard. It's very punishing. And you're only 4 people. In this case, we're only 2 people. Wow. And,
yeah.
Well, we're doing something that was really hard, and we finally got to the last stage, and we got our ass handed to us. We even lost our bonus. We we managed to collect extra money, but then we fucked up and lost a quarter of it.
So you basically lost everything.
No, I just said I had to go, and we just have to finish it another time because we still get a checkpoint, thankfully, so we didn't lose everything.
Oh, okay.
But it was kind of annoying though because you got the money just dangling there in front of you, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like imagine you got the savage weapon dangling there in front of you. You know it's right around the corner, but then like.
Well, yeah, it sucks in general that you make some plans and then they kind of get ruined, right? Like I didn't have too much of a backup plan for today if the special thing wasn't going to work. So, but I don't hold a grudge against the person because obviously real life does take precedence, right? So it was like a family related thing, right? So.
Oh yeah, of course.
So I don't hold a grudge, but well, it's unfortunate, but there is a silver lining to this. Which I can explain to you after the stream because it's kind of not related, but so
are we live, by the way?
Yes, we are. Yeah. We even got one viewer. Yeah, boy. So we are we're pretty famous now.
Can I get like just like for a few seconds? Like I'll be right back, really fast.
Okay, yeah, I can just do the intro in the meantime. But so yeah, because we couldn't do the special thing we promised. We decided, okay, we're just gonna talk about Abyssos. So for some of you who may have been there for that unfortunate event, my PC basically exploded on stream when we were, and it so feels bad, man, because we were like getting really like into it, like into Abyssos and like all this theory crafting and stuff. Like, it was getting pretty interesting, and then my PC just went, and so, well, that happened, but we are back and we are going to finish this. And for those of you who joined just now, you may have missed it, but the reason only Velvet is here, because we kind of had to arrange this now kind of last minute. But we figured doing at least something is better than just we're just gonna ghost you guys and not stream at all this week. Because I would prefer to not cancel streams if possible, because it's really annoying. Because like, I understand that if some of you guys might want to, like, you wait for the stream on Sunday. I don't know if any of you do. I would be pretty humbled if someone actually waits for the stream. But if you did, and I just decided, nah, never mind, I can't do the stream, I mean, that would be kind of disappointing. So we're gonna do the stream anyways. So, as the title implies, this is about Abyssos, and specifically story discussion. Now, I want to begin by I'm just gonna TLDR kind of what we spoke in the last segment. The boss fights are awesome. Music is awesome. Lahabrea, pretty cool dad. Probably not the best dad, but still kind of cool. Elidibus is awesome. I like some of the whole like politics, or like not really politics, but like, for example, how Lahabrea reacts to Azem and stuff like that, like the interactions with the convocation members, and then the stream after, we looked at the Savage fight, and we'll talk about the Savage fight a bit later, and I'm gonna put up a spoiler for it when we do, in case some of you guys still wanna do the Savage fight blind. So we should probably begin by doing some theory crafting. And last time, someone brought up in the chat, my apologies, I don't remember the name of the person, but someone brought up the Jesse Cox video about Abyssos.
I believe that was the Cupcake, but I don't know if he's here today.
Oh yes, yeah, it was Cupcake. So yeah, it was brought up, and I figured we could kind of just do like a quick reaction to the video. Now, Velvet, can you set up the oh right, we didn't have time to set this up. Can you do the gather thing?
I can make the watch together.
Okay, so yeah, just make it real quick. So yeah, we're basically gonna watch the video and see what kind of crazy theory, and then we're gonna follow up on that with some of our own theories, because as we realized last time, I honestly underestimated this, but there is so much like theory crafting to the Pandæmonium story. And the funny thing is, we're not even in the last tier yet. Like, it's still the second tier. And there's already like so much like juicy stuff. So
let me just absolutely confirm. So does Pandæmonium have a huge plot twist coming in Final Fantasy XIV by Jesse Cox? I believe that's the one, right?
I think so. Yeah, I didn't actually check what the title. I don't think Cupcake. I don't think he referenced the title name, but I assume that's it, right?
Well, yeah, this one was released 2 weeks ago, so I'm presuming it's this one. Also, it's pretty loud. It's just the settings.
Well, just slide in the Discord chat, and I can open the link and then show it to the stream. Let's hope the quality is decent, because last time the quality was kind of bad on the what's to.
I'm noticing the same thing here. I think it's just Watch Together that has low quality.
Yeah, I don't think it's the video itself that's the issue.
I think it's because they want you to upgrade to premium.
The following.
Okay.
I've done the newest 6.2 Pandæmonium content. Cute little sprout. Get out of here, you.
That's so funny. Hold on. But hold on. Pause it. I don't have the display capture. Wait, what? Oh, right. Let me not be an idiot. Actually set the correct monitor.
That's a tough thing.
And there we go. We should be all good. Can you guys see it? Yeah, you guys can see it. So, yeah, Velvet, play it. Let's get it.
Okay.
Oh, wait, this is so funny. I can't see it properly now. Oh.
What happens on your screen?
Hold on.
If you're wondering, it's just a static image on the screen right now.
No. Let me change this a bit.
Okay.
I'm an idiot. I didn't see the thing myself now. Dude, I'm such a fucking moron. No. Okay, now it should work. Yo, let's get it.
All right.
Way back when, we were told the new raid series would be Pandæmonium, and it would have something, according to this key art, to do with our old nemesis, Lahabrea.
Yeah, our boy, the Lahabrea.
Are just kind of here to watch. Lahabrea is one of the Asians who has been a thorn in our side since a
Whoa, that's a pretty hot dude. Wait, I hope he's not gonna explain the whole backstory of Lahabrea in this. Because
I hope not either.
Usher in various calamities and eventually resurrect their god Zodiac.
Yeah, look at me, I'm an evil mofo. Yo, our boy.
Lahabrea being the one that takes up most of our early time in the game. Like I said,
yeah, he's basically the first villain,
at the end of the first
right?
expansion, Heavensward,
And then he gets snapped by Thornton. Dude, this is such a funny scene in hindsight, right? When you realize how strong Emmett Selk and Eredibus are. And this dude just gets snapped by his own, not Zodiac, by Thornton.
Literally defeated by religion.
Yeah. Yeah. Final days, damn. Should we just skip ahead to the theory part?
Actually,
or what do you think?
I actually have something interesting to say.
What's up?
Also, welcome to the stream, Callan. The fact that Lahabrea gets killed by Thornton is kind of ironic in a way. Because, you know, in the raid, there was the whole ego death thing we were talking about, right? And also the fact that Lahabrea is dedicated to, like, reviving Zodiac.
Yeah.
Despite that, he gets defeated by the bishop and his knights because they so happen to be more dedicated to their religion.
They were praying to the eye more, yeah. That's pretty funny. Oh no, the Heidelman kick, no.
We're pieces of the people they once knew. In fact, by the time we get to the conclusion of Endwalker,
oh shit.
We've seen our villains.
Man, I remember this cutscene. This cutscene was so rough though. Like when I was thinking from like our character's perspective, like you have to explain to these people, hey bruh, this is how you all got clapped.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's still always been kind of that asshole.
True.
Yeah. True.
I was thinking the same.
Prison for failed experiments, a place we've been told Lahabrea is.
We did talk about some of this stuff last session though, about how.
Yeah, we did.
Always here for wacky. The story of Pandæmonium.
By the way, if you guys can't hear the audio too much, don't worry. I'm gonna recite what he. Well, actually, hold on.
Shard very similar
Let me
to
turn the
ones
audio up.
we've seen the Asians possess
There we go.
before. It is
So-
clearly made, not formed, and contains power beyond that of any normal-ass magic crystal in Final Fantasy.
By the way, I can't see the chat right now, so I hope you
Blank
can react to it,
blue
Velvet.
crystal.
Oh my
Just
god.
keep that in mind for later.
Callan
So
just joined
when
us.
Claudian becomes a little
Yo,
obsessed,
hello.
and then eventually starts
A
to
little
switch
obsessed.
voices, and his
You got so excited, he's like, yo, bruh, I'm just gonna go to Abyssos now on my
So we
own.
learned that
What a
Elidibus of the
fucking-
past needs our help with the
What a moron.
prison research lab facility called Pandæmonium that has been taken over by something.
Yo,
and
the
is
snake
turning
lady.
towards the guard.
Man, this fight is so
These
funny in
monsters
normal
want to
mode.
protect whatever
And I
is happening
hate this
inside.
3 boss in
Breed
normal
the
mode, man.
experiments and creatures chain with
one
them as well.
weekly I had to
The
spend
big
30
problem,
minutes
of course, is
killing
that
it.
Lahabrea is supposed
people
to be the
just
one
couldn't do
keeping
it.
an eye on the place. And the very first boss we fight literally has Lahabrea's mask as part of its design. So the community
Yeah.
was already excited for what this could mean, especially when you defeat it and it turns out to be a normal
Man, it
man
was
named
so like
Aridonius, who
the
fan
first
base
tier,
had
like
named
Asphodelos was really good at
Algoria,
setting
at the
up
time
like,
thought
yo,
was 100% going to somehow end
like
up
all these
being
mysteries, like
our
what's gonna
Lahabrea.
happen. It didn't really
To those of you who are new to
give
Final
much
Fantasy
answers. It just gave
Lahabrea,
questions, basically.
Emet-Selch, Olympus, etc.
Yeah.
Those are all just titles. I know it sounds
Yeah.
crazy. It kind of is.
A lot of people
So
kind of
the
miss
thought
that.
process
That
was
they're just
that
titles, not their real
eventually
names.
Eric Thonius would take on the
It's-
role, the title.
Actually, I'm gonna talk about the real
and
names a
that
bit
this raid
later.
series would be the
When we
story
talk
that
about
explained how.
symbolism
And
and how it
ironically,
ties
we
to
were now-
Greek.
Actually, I don't know about that. You can explain it right now.
Well, basically, the titles of the convocation members, or like the convocation members, right? Those were the
Yeah.
people who are at the head of the ancient society, right? And they get chosen to be in this position, and they fulfill basic roles in it, right? So they are given a title when they accept the office, and because the ancient society is kind of based on like this idea of collectivism, right? So they shun like individualism. So they you no longer have a name basically when you join. Your name becomes your position.
It's just like when I joined the Foreign Legion.
Yeah,
You no longer, you just get a new name.
yeah. That's kind of the deal. So yeah, like Emet-Selch's name isn't actually Emet-Selch, right? It's Hades and stuff like
Oh,
that.
okay.
We were now working with the guy
I
who
see.
would eventually become one of our greatest foes. A fun plot twist to be sure, but I think one that is now totally debunked. Because, as we come to find out, Eric Thonius' father is in fact Lahabrea. And he and his
Whoa!
son do not get along very well
That
due
was
to
the
a
twist.
past with his mother that we will come to understand.
Man,
more
you know
about
what's
in
funny?
6.2. Speaking of 6.2,
I kind of thought about this, right? Isn't Lahabrea
Father
kind of
Lucas is working with
proof
you to
of the fact that
investigate Pandæmonium.
men
Eric
age
Thonius is attacked by a
like
strange
wine?
creature that
Like you
resembles
see
one
the
of the
younger
youngest
himself, like
bosses
Hephaestus.
but that
This
claims
guy doesn't
to
have
be his
eyebrows,
father, Lahabrea.
doesn't have any
But
facial
before
hair.
we can do
Then you
anything,
see his
the
older
real
version,
Lahabrea shows
and this
up
guy is so
to
much
save us.
hotter.
The fake we come to find
Like
out
look at this lad, dude. Look at him.
Who I'm trying to be.
is known as
Yeah,
Abyssos,
like,
and we discover that it's
that's
actually
peak performance.
some
Now look
kind
at
of
this dude.
twisted version of a
Look at this dude.
younger
Would you
Lahabrea,
want to be that guy?
Hephaestus being his real name at the time. But the question is, of course, why does he exist? Well, we learn over the course of the raid series.
Oh wait,
that
I realized I don't have the
his
webcam
father
set up, so they
was
don't
over
actually
the
see
death
us.
of his
Well, they can
mother
hear us, so
and
it's
the
fine.
cold nature of his father ever since.
I
But it's
kinda-
revealed through
sorry
the
guys, I
raid
kinda
that
messed this
Lahabrea
up.
is hiding the truth of his
Oh, it's fine.
However, there's a small criticism. I wish Jesse Cox was using subtitles because he speaks very fast.
He does speak kind of fast though, yeah.
mother and her death from the boy.
I
Turns
wonder
out
when we
his
actually
mom,
get to the
Athena,
theory.
was
Chat, does
actually
anyone know
brilliant,
at which part of the
but
video
obsessed researcher
we get to
trying
the
to
actual
discover the
like
secrets of
theory?
life
Yeah.
and
I don't mean to sound like
Eventually
rude, but
transcendence
obviously
to God.
this is
Because
a lot
while
of
the ancient
backstory,
Assyrians
and we
do
kind of
lots,
already
like,
talked about the
they have
backstory in the
power to
last
create
part,
life,
right?
There's a
So,
difference between making
kinda-
life and making a soul, and that is what she was obsessed over. But
Yep.
it was a young Lahabrea, Hephaestus, that formulated the theory that a person could meld with the creator.
You know what's funny? I actually
create a
looked it up,
soul,
by the way,
and the two would
if it's
become
Hephaestus
greater
or
than his
Hephaestus.
mother. Athena
And apparently it just
insisted on
depends if you are
developing the
NA
theory
or
further, and it was
UK
working together that the
pronunciation.
two fell in love. When
Because
Pandæmonium was
I was
born,
pronouncing it
Athena would be chief
Hephaestus,
researcher,
and I was like,
and
yo,
it
am I
was
messing
this
this up because I'm
that
hearing everyone else
caused
say
her
Hephaestus,
troubles.
but
Her passion
apparently,
turned to obsession, and an eventual
Hephaestus is
plot
correct
according to
in
Lahabrea
UK,
to use her
like
son
British spin.
Actually, let's try and fast forward a bit because it seems like there's still a lot of.
Yeah, let's go to like 10 minutes or
Everything
something, right?
seems fine, and you return to the present only to discover that
Okay, this is
researcher
towards the
Claudian,
end of the
drawn
story,
by
so
the voice,
we
has
should
gone
be kind of done
missing
with the backstory
in
soon.
Ozzy Slaw. Conveniently,
Yeah,
a floating
dude, that's so
continent
funny though.
Where Lahabrea met his end, and at the same time, in the ethereal sea, Pandæmonium reappears.
Man, this was such a fucking mind blow. I remember when I saw this, my mind literally.
It's theory time. I think it's safe to say Eric Thonius
When I
isn't,
always saw
as
the
we all
freaking
thought, going to be Lahabrea.
Pandemonium in
But
real time.
It could be
That was such an
Claudian
epic plot
is
twist.
the shard of Eric
Yeah.
Thonius. That's why he hears the voices and the others do not. He appears to look similar to him, and why he's being directed to.
I do hope that
Slav.
most people
Is
catched
he
on
much
to
like
the
Eric Thonius
similarities
used again?
between Eric
But by who?
Thonius and
Athena? How?
and,
Why?
the-
Well,
the
could the death
other
of
dude.
Athena have been
I forgot his
a
name,
lie
sorry.
in bonding
But
with
the guy in
Lahabrea?
real
Could
time.
part of her have
Scientist.
permanently attached to him? That was
Oh,
her
Claudian,
research goal after
Claudian,
all,
that was it.
bonding souls to become something stronger. Perhaps this dark side that Lahabrea ripped away is the part that contained Athena as well. And the evil Hephaestus' objective in the raid is to bring her back, and maybe that's due to her influence within him. So when Lahabrea
Yeah, I think
takes
that was the
crystal with
idea,
him at
right?
the end, and doesn't destroy
Yes.
his emotional
You also see
side
that in
like
Savage
he
very
intended to
clearly
do.
too, but
Perhaps he opens himself
as I
up
said,
to
we're
be
not talking about
corrupted
Savage
by
now.
Athena once more. Could this explain the difference between La Habrea of the past and the one that we've known since A Realm Reborn?
Yes,
and
I
before?
do think
La
the Soul
Habrea who
Crystal
was
is huge in
manipulative,
explaining the
devious, and
difference.
impulsive,
I think
to the
that's
point where
key.
the other Ascians, like
We talked
Abyssos,
about it
would
last
speak
time
ill of him
that
later on, and we're
well,
told
we'll get
he
into
cared
it
little for
after the
other
video.
Ascians' plans. The La Habrea we know moved from body to body, taking on new forms, and even at one point merging with another Ascian to fight you.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
brought this
that
up
was
last time
reality.
too. I remember
It was
Jean brought it
never
up, right?
Actually La
Yeah.
Habrea of
No, it was me.
Festus, but
Wait,
La
it was
Habrea
you? Wasn't it
of
Jean?
Athena that we've battled? Could she
Oh, wait, no,
somehow
yeah.
control the entire
Okay,
time?
yeah, I
And that's
misremember.
not
My
even my
bad.
craziest theory.
What's the
Let's
craziest?
dive into the deep end.
Okay, this is the
that
good
blank
part. Okay,
crystal
let's
which
see.
Claudian found that is clearly La Habrea's color. The man we knew as the good La Habrea trying to reach out and warn Claudian, the shard of
Okay.
his son, or is it blank because it's fake, created by Athena, and the warning is a trap? And what of Ericthonius?
Pause
When
it, pause
Ericthonius
it, pause
and his
it.
father are discussing the
I do think that the crystal, the blue crystal, right, the original one you received that tells you to go to Pandæmonium. I do agree with his logic. I think it's a thing set up by Athena to kind of debate you, to awaken, or like do something in Pandæmonium that allows Pandæmonium to come to the ethereal sea in the current times. It was probably like a contingency plan because I mean, let's be honest, she knew that La Habrea was gonna clap her, right? Like she pretty much knew that. Yeah, it's her end.
I think so too.
Yeah, so I think that so far it's pretty
history
sound.
with Athena, and La Habrea mentions how they fell in love. Ericthonius replies, I take it I was born not soon after. And then there is this long, very awkward pause. Even your character picks
Very
up on
awkward
something
pause.
When we see the vision of La Habrea confronting Athena, she mentions that he has never come down to see her in the lab. Yet, we are told that she spends all of her time there. So what relationship would her son have had with her that he would have cared so much? Sure, he was assigned to work at Pandæmonium due to his mother, according to the story, but I say there's something potentially amiss with this history. Taking a dip into the world of Greco-Roman myth, which, to be clear, all of these ancient Ascians are either named after a Greek or Roman mythological figure.
Okay, yo, pause it again. The only Roman figure, like they're all Greek except Bernard, and Bernard is kind of technical because Bernard is supposed to come from Venus, right? But because obviously the Romans has reused a lot of the Greek gods, right? But Bernard, they've actually confirmed in an interview that Bernard is actually not a reference to Venus from the Roman Venus. It's straight up just a reference to FF12's Bernard. And the parallel is supposed to be that they both represent like a faction or like an ancient who turned their back on their own faction, basically, and kind of quote unquote betrayed them. That's a similarity. No, now there is Venus, Morningstar, and Lucifer all relate to Bernard from 12. But if we went into that discussion, this would take like 10 minutes. So sorry, just keep playing it. So I just wanted to add that.
Sometimes both. And Ericthonius, according to Greek myth, was born from the earth, a concept being known as an autochthon, if you want to look that up.
I do
And
have
he was
something to say about that
adopted
later.
and raised by Athena. Note here, she never gives birth to Ericthonius. In fact,
Yep.
in the myth, Festus tries to get a little too close to Athena, and she's not doing that.
The fucking-
But, you know, his
I love Greek
baby
mythology,
juice,
man.
we'll say, ends up on her, and she's like,
I remember this.
nope.
I'm gonna talk about
And
this too,
suffers the earth
actually.
and becomes Ericthonius.
But it's good that he
This is
brought
where
it
you
up.
can tell that story. But an interesting factoid from all of this.
By the way, guys, there's a reason he
roughly
can't go into
translates
detail.
to Troubles born.
Or like say it specifically
So
what
follow me
Hephaestus
here.
did.
What if
Look up the story
Ericthonius
yourself.
isn't a child born
Greek
of
mythology is kind of weird.
but a simulacrum created in their quest to master life and the soul. Her
Yeah.
entire objective is to create something called a hemithoi or hemithia, which it's described by Homer as sort of a Greek mythological version of a demigod or a semi-divine
Yep.
hero. She's trying to create a super-powered Ascian, and Ericthonius
Superpowered
doesn't
Ascian.
have some powers.
That's such a
Could
good
this
summary.
be why Athena
Ubermensch.
specifically needs him for her
Yeah.
research? To the point where evil Hephaestus kidnaps him? But again, why him specifically? Maybe because Athena and La Habrea combined to make him, but not in a genetic way, but sort of a magical, we can bind our essences to bring this child to life way. Evil Hephaestus even says, Erichthonius is mine, heart and soul.
Yo,
Their meeting, we see
wait, can you
Erichthonius
pause
in the
it again?
background.
Yeah.
I do want to add that I think there's a pretty logical reason why Athena, because I think someone else asked this in like a Discord, why did Athena experiment on Erichthonius, right? Why didn't she just pick some random dude on the street? Like, why her own son, right? And I think there's actually a pretty logical reason for it, which is that, well, Erichthonius was, as we can see, he was very fond of his mother. So, as cruel as it sounds, like he made kind of the perfect test subject, because, you know, he was following her around like a dog, basically. So I think it makes sense that she used him. And of course, he brought it up, but obviously the genetics thing does kind of play into it too. Like, you have the similar genetics, so maybe that helped make it easier to experiment. But yeah, just continue.
Hang unconscious, and as La Habrea and Athena is glowing the same blue color they do. What's even wilder is after La Habrea announces that he must kill Athena to prevent her from doing more damage, she seems pretty okay with it, remarking that she's fine that he's the one doing it. Does she have a backup plan similar to the body?
I think it's very obvious she had a backup.
La Habrea's darker half? Is it
because she said, like, she knew that he would have to terminate her.
Has been inside Erichthonius this whole time.
Wait, go back. Can you go back like 10 seconds? I missed that part, my bad.
She seems remarking that she's fine that he's the one doing it. Does she have a backup plan similar to the body created for La Habrea's darker half? Is it possible that the other part of Athena, the one that evil Hephaestus wants to bring back to life, has been inside Erichthonius this whole time? And
yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. Pause it again. So there has been this theory that Erichthonius, or Claudian in the present even, is a kind of a sleeper agent by Athena, basically, right? I've heard that idea before, and I do think there's some merit to it. That could definitely be, because it's very suspicious that Claudian goes to Abyssos, and then all of the shit went down. It seems very deliberate, like someone set it up, right? And yeah, it's kind of a cool idea, you know, you create this sleeper agent to awaken something 13,000 years later. Like, talk about having a contingency plan, man. But yeah, let's continue.
Mother, her research seemed to be focused on this idea of combining two people and the creation of vessels to store these new souls in. And we see this again and again in the story as time progresses, and as this technology is either rediscovered or secretly introduced by Asians, like the Allegans and their quest to create clones.
Oh, okay, I do have a theory based on this, actually, but I'm gonna say it later, after the video.
Could in some way Athena still be there, luring the shard of her other half to her in order to...
And I do have something to say about this too. It's so funny. A lot of these points I already planned about it, like to talk about it.
Brought forward through the ethereal siege of our time. And we haven't even talked about the La Habrea mask that first appears on Erichthonius when he's the first boss of the raid tier.
I think that's I think the mask is literally just like a symbolism thing. I don't think it means anything in reality, because, you know, sometimes you just have like these elements, right, where you just make something because, you know, it's cool or it's like symbolic, right, but it may not necessarily mean anything, right? I think that's the thing with the mask.
Yep.
But obviously,
I don't agree with that with Final Fantasy. I think Final Fantasy does that deliberately very often.
Yeah, and La Habrea does later... Oh, wait, I think he shows it here, literally. There's, like, optional dialogue with La Habrea. He literally says that there was a purpose as well to that mask, which was that it helped him cast intimate magics. Or, like, it enhanced him in an arcane way.
Oh, it's this right?
In a way that reflects our innermost selves. I had thought that mask a symbol of the chains that bound my heart, but recent events have caused me to...
Or no, sorry, what I was talking about were the these, I think, right? Yeah, I think let's keep playing the video.
His belt, which was given to him by his
crystals
father.
On his belt.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about, sorry.
From Final Fantasy XII, named after Mateus, the Emperor of Hell from Final Fantasy II.
Oh my god, dude, everything I wanted to bring up this guy mentions. This is so annoying, man.
Hell, the raid tier is called Abyssos. The Abyss is another name for hell.
I wa-
I mean, there's just so many clues.
Guys,
here,
I'm so
which is
mad.
why I'm
Like,
gonna leave
there's
you
like
with
5
what
points here I was
two.
gonna bring up on my
In
own.
the background of the lab where we fight evil Hephaestus, there are these sort of DNA helix symbols. One is
Yep.
red, one is blue, and we know the crystal you collect from evil Hephaestus is red, and La Habrea's is blue.
Oh, I never made
Could
that
this be
connection,
a hint
actually.
Of the plot
That's
twist to
interesting.
come. If you think I'm way off, or you have a theory of your own, that's what the comments.
I do have
I'd
some
love to
theories.
see what you think below.
Okay.
I really enjoy theory crafting with
Let's
you all, even if I'm
let's go back to
totally
our
wrong.
normal view here.
Well, he's interesting. He doesn't bring up the savage thing though, which like definitely like that kind of just reinforces the theories.
Yeah. So okay. So
Also,
yeah,
funny fact too,
we're
like,
back in the normal view.
Also, funny fact too. Like, I still think it's like kind of funny that like the whole ego death thing, right?
No,
And,
well,
like, the
we're gonna talk
parallel-
about it later if you don't mind, because
Okay, go
I don't want to spoil the savage mechanics for people who potentially don't want to get spoiled, right? So
Sure.
okay, how many things were there mentioned there? Okay, so first of all, the purpose of the crystal that is left behind when they use internment on Hephaestus. Yes, I do believe. My theory is that the way that crystal comes into play is that during the final days, I think I mentioned this last time actually, but I think during the final days, La Habrea uses that crystal to use the memories within that crystal to help find a solution to summon Zodiac, or like in some way help summon Zodiac, right? And so he uses the crystal, and then he gets fucked over basically, right? Because well, then Hephaestus can take over potentially, or like his personalities blend, or I don't know what happens there. And I even made last time like this theory that it's possible that in the Pandæmonium itself there's a creature that acts like proto-Zodiac, or like maybe not Zodiac itself, but maybe they were toying with like a concept that would be able to do what Zodiac did, right? Like using a lot of astral energy to basically consider a lot of ether in one area, basically active ether. So that could be the case. So you could fight like a proto-Zodiac. That would be a cool boss fight. So the blue crystal, right? So basically, yeah, when you unlock Pandæmonium, right? It's all set in motion. Like the thing that incites all of this story is Claudian finding this blue crystal, and the crystal besieges you to enter Pandæmonium because there's something going on there. And I agree with Jesse's theory there that this crystal is most likely something planned by Athena. Like the voice itself could even literally be Athena. So I think that is true.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Because just to bring the whole Dante's Inferno reference into it, it kind of reminds me of the way that Satan in Dante's Inferno uses Beatrice as bait. Like he corrupts Beatrice at one point, like the woman that Dante is trying to find, and he then basically uses her as a means to bait. Like he basically like, I mean, Beatrice is not evil per se, but there is one point in Dante's Inferno where Beatrice does turn evil because Satan corrupts her,
Right.
and then uses her to bait Dante deeper into the circles.
Oh. So yeah, could this be like it's a parallel to, yeah, she baits you to go deeper into Pandæmonium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the interesting question then, like, does it turn out we're gonna find out there's another even voice guy, or is it just her?
I mean, that would be a typical Final Fantasy move. It's like, oh, you thought she was the
because,
villain all along. Oh, never mind, there's this guy coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, like that's the first thing I thought to myself. Like,
actually in Eden's in the Eden tier, right, in the Eden raid, we didn't even know who the main bad guy was until literally the last tier. So keep that in mind. Like that there has been a precedent for that before. So
yeah, so it is definitely possible.
yeah.
What if it turns out it's maybe maybe it's related to like, I don't know, somebody more powerful, or maybe it's like an experiment gone wrong inside Pandæmonium or some shit.
Yep. But that's a...
Ergo, Genova.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the Genova thing again, because obviously. But yeah, that's a very cool tie-in, and I think there's some merit to it. So... Wait, hold on. Is the music actually playing? Oh, I think it's just looped again. So the next theory was, or like the next idea was that, Claudian goes to to Azizla, right? And this is very interesting because I thought about this too. It seems very specific that he goes to Azizla, and where did Lahabrea get clapped by Thordan, right? He got clapped in Azizla. Now there is kind of a hole in this idea though, because in an interview during Shadowbringers, Natsuko Ishikawa said that actually Lahabrea didn't die by Thordan. Rather, he actually died. You remember that scene at the very end of Stormblood in 4.0 when Estinian shows up and he pokes the eyes, right?
No,
she said that that's when Lahabrea actually died for good. Which is kind of funny because that would make Estinian also an Ascian Slayer. But but that's according to Ishikawa. Now that might be, obviously that's just a comment by the writer. So we can't really take it as like definitive like canon, right? It's not in the game.
Actually, that opened a massive can of worms, because now the first thing I think to myself is like, wait, so what you're telling me is that the Ascians were more powerful than dragons, most likely. Which because they know the dragons, they were basically aliens, right? Like they came from a different planet.
Yep.
And Nidhogg, he was. I mean, that basically means that if Lahabrea was part of, kind of like they merged together in there somewhere, he basically like, is it possible then that the reason to why the rage of Shinryu and all that stuff and all the connecting souls, etc., why that worked is specifically because that Thordan destroyed the physical body of Lahabrea in that moment, and then they ended up getting merged together with Nidhogg's soul, etc., and Thordan's spirit, etc.
Well, see, the thing is that in the game itself, there really doesn't. That's why I said like her comment is kind of, you can take it with a pinch of salt, because in reality in the game it doesn't really support this claim that much, because like as you pointed out, if we suppose that Lahabrea managed to persist despite Nidhogg's influence, right? He managed to stay alive in some form in the eye.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have we seen like some signs of that, right? But we don't. So
yeah. Well, to be fair,
there is one
had the
like there is one thing
of dragons expanded that much.
Yeah, that's true. But I was also gonna say that there is one thing, I guess. It would explain why Elidibus was so easily able to find the eyes from the abyss, because you know he could have just seen Lahabrea's soul basically and just went for it. Maybe, I don't know. But I didn't want to get.
Which, by the way, is also another funny parallel. Like, you know, the abyss, like it falls into the abyss. Literally,
yeah.
Alpha says, "Throw them into the abyss."
No, that's Emeric, but yeah.
Or was it Alf?
Yeah, it was
no,
Emeric.
it was
he's
somebody
like,
else.
yeah, he's like, throw them into the abyss, and then Alf, you know, and the warrior like yeet the eyes into the over the bridge. Yeah, but yeah. So that was the other thing. So yeah, he went there, and yeah, it seems very specific, like Azuzla, right? Because yeah, that's where Lahabrea died. So I guess that's where she went down. So what else did he bring up? Oh yeah, that Athena is behind all of this. I think we discussed this last time. Anyway, so the FF2 reference. Okay, so let's talk about the FF2 reference. So I don't think Pandæmonium has too much in the way of FF2 references, despite its name. But it is true that. So let me briefly explain FF2, right? In FF2, the main villain of the game, called Emperor, like in all of the games, he's literally just called the Emperor. But in some extra material, like I think in Dissidia, they actually say his name is Emperor Matthias, and that's a very specific name because the Scion of the Scion of Light equivalent of Lahabrea is called Matthias, right? And
Yes.
from FF12, like the Esper. Yeah, so that's the connection there. The other connection is that, okay, so his soul, the Emperor in FF2, right? His soul gets split. One part gets sent to heaven, one part to hell. And because the Emperor is so overpowered, he took over both simultaneously with half his soul each. But I mean, yeah, the guy's just a bit too powerful. What do you want? But so that's what happened. So Pandæmonium in F2 is like pretty much an allegory for hell, like literally. So that's where the tie-in comes from, because obviously in the Abyssos story we see Lahabrea's soul being split, right, between Hephaestus and Lahabrea. So that's kind of the parallel with F2. Now, but I'm not sure if I would put too much stake in it, though. I think it's meant to be just a cool little reference, but
I can see some parallels. Like, really interesting is that, you know, that Pandæmonium appears in real time in the Ethereal Sea, right?
I was going to say that.
It's a question like, wait, like, yeah,
because that happens in FF2.
Like, oh, so what is he planning now? Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, just to like add also again some literature outside of the FF4 Final Fantasy as well, the Dante's Inferno actually also has another book after that. I forgot what it's called, but it's the sequel to Dante's Inferno that actually takes place at a mountain where Dante is meant to climb up a mountain to go to heaven. After he gets through all the circles of hell.
Right. So
of course, I don't think they're gonna make that much use of that literature, but it's an interesting, because there's a few like inspiration. You can see a little bit of the inspiration a few places.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of that later, but we're still not talking about the Theorycrafting. So yeah, obviously, there is some other parallel with FF2, as well as FF7. So the whole Genova thing we talked about last time. We'll get into that in a bit. So something I wanted to bring up that I found very interesting, and it was kind of mentioned briefly in Jesse's video as well, is that so the Echo, right? Let's talk about the Echo a bit. We know that the Echo has three main abilities: to transcend time, to transcend words, and to transcend flesh. Those are the three things that we are told from the get-go that this is what the Echo can do, right? So the first thing, transcending time, we learn what that means in Vena explains that in Elpis. She says that there are two ways to see the past. The first entails peering through the walls of the soul in the moment. A subject is recalling a memory. And the second, she basically says that, in the ambient ether, there are basically memories etched to it. So that's why we see the Echo flashbacks, right, at random. Because we basically
you can see every atom in the air.
Yeah, pretty much like you could kind of say that the atoms have memories attached to them, right? And we kind of are able to perceive them in unlimited capacity, but we can. So the game gives a very clear explanation for what that means, to transcend time, right? Transcending words. This isn't said explicitly, but I have a theory that the reason the Echo lets you understand all languages is because of Midgard, Solmor, and the First Brood. And I have a video about this if you guys want to check it out. It's called, it's the one about Dragon Speak that I explain this theory more in depth. And the third thing is to transcend flesh. Now, this is the interesting part when we talk about Abyssos, because we see like very early on in the story, you guys probably remember this cutscene, for example, with the Sahagin priest, right? And we know that the Ascians body hop, this ability to, as it says, to transcend flesh. I think the Abyssos story is explaining us where it originates from, because it seems heavily implied that the origins of that ability to transcend flesh comes from Athena's research. And it's very logical because so Mahabreya in this raid, he actually explains, he says that though we can enhance and alter our physical vessels, we have ever been bound to them. Athena's purpose was to shatter these limitations. So doesn't that sound an awful lot, a lot like what the Ascians are doing, right? They're able to transcend flesh by body hopping. Because as I said, like according to that comment with Mahabreya, it heavily implies that the ancients did not understand how to do this. They did not know how to do this at base. Yes, they can transform, and transform in lore just means you use ambient ether to like make yourself a new vessel. But, or like not a new vessel, or I guess, yeah, you could kind of say it that way. It basically allows you to expand yourself a bit and become stronger, essentially. But Athena, like her research, it involved fusing with creations and to transcend one's own flesh. You could phrase it that way. And since we don't see her actually dying at any point, which Jesse, I think, pointed out in the video as well, that she, I don't know, did he actually point this out? But that's another thing that supports his theory, though. We never see Athena
what exactly
die.
are you asking again? That's what he pointed out.
So I was gonna say, we never see Athena actually die, like on screen. She kind of dies off screen, but we never see it. So that kind of supports his theory even more. That's because we never see her die. What actually happened?
Oh yeah,
And
he never says it explicitly, but he kind of like implies that Athena is most likely not dead.
Yep. And what most likely happened, the reason they didn't show us Athena dying, because most likely what happened, the moment she got clapped by Mahabreya, right? Is the moment she succeeded in transcending her own flesh, and she body hopped to something else. Or she became part of the crystal, that we see the blue crystal, or whatever crazy theory you want to think about. So in that way, she was the first Ascian like body hopper, essentially, right? She basically did what the Sahagin priest did. Like, picture that cutscene when the Sahagin priest gets clapped by Merylwood. That's Athena. That's what she did. Mahabreya is like, she destroys her, and she's like, just goes to another body, or like the crystal, or whichever. So I think that seems very likely at this point. I think this raid is explaining where this ability to body hop and to transcend flesh came from. And that's Athena. Athena's research resulted in that. And it makes a lot of sense that why the Ascians would employ this tactic a lot, and especially why Mahabreya employs this tactic a lot, because Emet makes a point to mention that Mahabreya was the one who body hopped the most out of all the Ascians. He was doing it like non-stop, which is the explanation for why he's so weak and why he became so cray-cray. So it explains a lot that Mahabreya, through the memories of Hephaestus, would have a deep understanding of this ability, would abuse the fuck out of it to cause the calamities, right? So that makes a lot of sense. I think at least it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
So there was something that I saw. It wasn't in the chat last time, but I remember like I saw like a random comment. Someone mentioning Dynamis. Did Athena manage to manipulate Dynamis or something? I just want to mention this. I don't think this story will have anything to do with Dynamis. But if it does, you can say I'm wrong. But I feel like they wouldn't want to go into that right now.
I get the feeling that they probably want to save the Dynamis for something much grander.
Yeah, in like 7.0 or something, right?
Yeah, like I would definitely imagine them. I imagine I unironically, now that you mention it, I unironically think to myself that Dynamis probably would be more likely to be explained when we're talking about like other like maybe creatures from other worlds. Like the first thing to think to myself is like, well, maybe dragons, maybe Omega, something, anything.
Yeah.
Like because that's still like we still haven't had that chapter closed fully, like with the whole dragons and the Omicrons and thing. And I get the feeling that
Well, they're gonna be a beast tribe in like
yeah,
a month. Yeah. So that's
yeah.
probably.
But yeah, of course, I don't think in this expansion we're gonna have, like that much dragon and Omicron stuff explained. I think that's gonna be the next expansion, like unironically.
Yeah.
But they definitely we all remember that in the main story that they're kind of building it up. That like it seems like they're preparing it right because we're helping helping what's his name, the green boy.
Vitra.
Yeah, Vitra.
The green boy. I love the fact that I recognize what you meant.
Let's call him the green boy, man.
When I think of green boy, I think of something like the honk or something. Like, what do you mean, fam?
He's everybody's little brother.
That is so funny.
But yeah, they're kind of setting it up, like with the whole like with dragons and stuff. So
Yeah.
I get the feeling that like very late final patch we're probably gonna like start talking about dragons some more.
Maybe, yeah.
Which
But,
also makes sense for me. So
yeah.
So go on.
So yeah, I do agree with you. Yeah, I think Dynamis will be won't be a factor in this storyline at all. I just remember like some people mentioning it. I guess people are dying to see more of Dynamis because it was kind of a thing that was introduced and then just dropped. Another parallel I want to mention that I saw mentioned was that it's interesting that in the MSQ, now these two stories are probably not related, but it's interesting nonetheless that in the MSQ, we see the Voidsen do a very similar thing as Athena and Lahabrea. Like, because they talk about how the Voidsen devour each other, and in that way they merge each other's essences. That's pretty much the same thing as what Athena and Lahabrea.
I mean, that kind of adding to the thing I mentioned about the fact it's kind of convenient that literally the first boss in the new Void Dungeon's name is Beatrice.
That, yeah, that is a good point though.
So like, I feel like that's I mean, they probably are not fully connected, but like maybe the Void is like, as like I mean, we already know it's a shard, right? So maybe it's like the shadow of something that maybe was related to Pandæmonium in some way.
Yeah, I do think so. Yeah, and I think that's about it. Was there anything more we wanted to Theorycraft? Oh, right, I mean, the Genova thing, right?
Yeah, the Genova.
So, we kind of brought this up last time, so, but just to briefly mention it again, a lot of people catch some parallels with Genova and Athena, because the whole idea of experimenting, well, she's kind of a parallel to both Genova and Dr. Hojo, but the whole like idea of experimenting on your son, that is so FF7. And like, honestly, she as a character is literally Dr. Hojo.
She's like, mind you as well, though, that this kind of like also adds a little bit more to the whole bigger evil theory too, because Hojo wasn't the main bad guy either, though.
Yeah, that's true. Like, even though in reality, everything that was wrong with that world was caused by him. So,
yeah, and then it turns out, oh, wait a minute. Oh, hi, Sephiroth.
Yeah. So it's...
We're probably not gonna have Sephiroth, but I think I'm sorry. I just like I can just want to say what I think because I think what's gonna happen is that in the normal mode, next raid tier, right? It's gonna be Mateus. I'm pretty certain it's probably gonna be like some kind of like counter character to Mateus of some kind.
Maybe.
And then when you get into Savage, the final phase is gonna be him merged with Genova or something.
Maybe. But the easy reference they could go for is to have is to make us fight. Well, I guess the funny thing is we already did fight Ericthonius, but like maybe Ericthonius could be like a parallel to Sephiroth in some way. Someone
that's a really
and,
good.
and
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah,
and
that's true.
but he already kind of is though. Like he's trying to revive his mom, right? Which is
Yeah.
what he thought he was doing in 7. So there's already
Oh
some
my gosh,
interesting parallels there.
Just imagine him in his next form. He's doing all the chains, but now one of them is shaped like a bunch of chains that takes the form of a wing.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, same as with the F2 thing though, I don't know how much stock you want to put into this though. But there are definitely some reference to Genova. They literally use the word reunion as well, mind you. In the Savage version, not to spoil too much, but there is a very, Jean pointed out like a very obvious Genova motif. Both the crossing wings under the boss, and I also pointed out the viruses in the background. Or like which Velvet said was Corona. That was so funny. But
Can't say that too much, or else we're gonna get demonetized. But yeah, I agree. I'm very, very certain that Nova is gonna be involved in this. To what extent though? That's the thing though. Like because like it's also the thing also is that I doubt that they're gonna like I don't think they're gonna put all the eggs in one basket. Like maybe it's gonna be something like, okay, maybe one fight is Genoa themed, and then like maybe the last boss is gonna be completely original concept. That's also very likely. Like final something. It's just gonna be called that. Like final something, whatever that may be.
Yeah. So I think that's all the theories. Guys in the chat, if you have some theory that you have, just mention it and we'll react to it.
Yeah.
But I think
put it in the chat or give us a comment or watch some of Baker's other videos in case you're like curious if he has already thought about what you're thinking.
But yeah, so if you have some theories, just put them in the chat. Because last time people were putting some interesting theories, and it's always fun to read about them. So, but I think that's about it that I had in my notes. Or Velvet, did you still have some theory?
Perfect. It's I always have a theory, but I don't. I've unfortunately I've also run out of time too, so we need to kind of wrap it up and.
Wait. No, it's fine. I can do some of it on my own. How much time do you have?
Then.
How much time?
I gotta go now. But I'll just finish off by saying that yeah, everyone, make sure to follow and sub and give Baker the notification bell because you have lots of interesting.
We should say that at the end though.
And make sure to ask him as. Well, okay. You can get to say that. But
yeah, I'm gonna say it at the end. But
I honestly I have lots of stuff to say. But unfortunately, the most of the stuff I have to say isn't really related to Abyssos anymore. Like most of the stuff I'm interested in talking about is the dragons. Actually, I really would like that to be a topic one day. In case in case there's no viewers that gives any proposals. So if nobody has any proposals in the chat, then I personally would like to talk about dragons at some point.
I would want to talk about Midgard, Solmer, and like all the dragons too. Like that would make
especially now. I think it's also a good timing for it now as well, since we're helping Vitra out and I'm really wondering if any of the new players even understands how crucial Vitra actually is to the entire FF14 universe because he's part of the first brood, right?
Yeah.
Which makes him a very, very important dragon. He's mega important.
I think I would be very interested in that topic. Yeah, I think we should consider it for another time. Yeah, that's a solid idea.
Yeah. Anyways, now the stage is Baker's, and I hope he's gonna be really good at entertaining you guys.
Yeah.
All right. See you around, Baker. Let me know how it goes afterwards.
Yeah. See ya. Okay, so I'll need to set this up for one man now. Let's see. Sorry about this sudden setup here. Yeah, boy. Now we're back. So okay, so we talked about Theorycrafting. So now, and yeah, sorry, it's kind of funny that this show is called the Triple Cast, but we're dwindling the numbers every time. We started with only 2 people, one-man show, now we only 1. Oh well. I can do this on my own. I'm a big boy. So when we talk about... now we're gonna talk about themes and symbolism and things of that nature. So so let's talk about, well, obviously, first of all, we know that the first tier, Asphodelos, had very much Castlevania vibes. I think a lot of you guys catch on to that. And this second tier had more like Resident Evil vibes, which I enjoyed a lot. I do like that kind of stuff, and it seems like they're really good at catering to these like different audiences. And then Pandemonium in general captures this hellish castle with like demonic, disturbing beings. So there's that. So when we talk about the allusions to some of the Greek entity, because obviously this has a lot of Greek references in it, ancient Greek, and I'm gonna talk about some of them here. So actually, should I talk? No, I'm gonna talk about the Savage thing later. So okay, first let's start with the obvious ones. Erichthonius, right? Erichthonius is the son. Actually, let me go in order. Let me go in the order of the characters. So Themis, well, Themis is obviously he was basically the counselor of Olympus, and he created basically divine law, and he was kind of also responsible for like making morals and stuff like that. And so that him being Elidibus was kind of easy to predict. Likewise, Mahabreya being Hephaestus, also kind of easy to predict because of his affinity to fire. And also you have to consider that he was the god, like the smith of the gods basically, and he was also the chief creator. And so, you know, it makes sense that Mahabreya, the master of creation magics, that would be Hephaestus. And obviously you have the fact that, as I said, you know, Erichthonius is the son of Hephaestus and was adopted by Athena. And that's where Jesse mentioned the weird story there. So let's just say that Hephaestus, he was kind of a nasty mofo. This dude was made the point that this guy's like pretty much the ugliest god. And but he was, Athena was pretty fond of him. Like, she would often visit his forge, and she was very interested by his creations. But eventually, Hephaestus tried to do a certain thing. It's a word that rhymes with grape, and yeah, that's that's Greek mythology for you. And stuff happened, and eventually Erichthonius came out as this weird snake thing, and like half man, half snake. And I think the two bosses, there's actually, I think, two allusions to the two bosses that we fight, because we fight Hegemone and Agdistis. And so Hegemone has like this snake motif, right? While Agdistis has this tree motif. I think the idea is supposed to be that they are a reference. Hegemony is a reference to, as I said, like how Erichthonius came out as half snake, half man, and the reference to Agdistis was that Athena, there was basically this contest of, at some point the gods were like, okay, we want to each establish dominion over a certain city in the mortal world, and sadly, like, there was no disputes except between Athena and Poseidon, because they both wanted to claim dominion over Athens, or Attica as it was known at the time. And Athena won that contest by giving Athens like a tree. Basically, she gave them like a tree that would nourish them. So I think that's the reference with Agdistis. Sorry, this is kind of the problem of doing this alone. It's kind of hard to read the chat. Oh no, we went from dual cast to switch cast. I'm not sorry about it. Oh, that's a interesting idea, Sassy. that the LB would have originated there. Maybe. We'll see. So the other thing I wrote down here in my notes, and this I think is kind of cool, because I think as with a lot of Greek mythology, I think a huge theme here is love, and also there's a theme about creation. The two kind of intertwine in a way as well. I'll get into that in a bit, but basically, the love component, which, as I said, the Greek are very fond of, it's presented in a few ways. So let's go back to the name of those two keywords that we fight, right? So Hegemone is she was a goddess from Hellenic beliefs, right? And she was one of those kinds of love goddesses that represented joyful love. But Hegemone specifically, like of those three, she personified logical partnerships, basically. And I think we can kind of see this parallel to Athena and Lahabrea. They are kind of a couple born out of work, essentially, like a logical, like let's combine our abilities, kind of a thing, right? So I think that's what it's signifying. Now Agdistis, I remember when we cleared Agdistis, and my friend Jin, because we did it together, he was like asking me, "Yo, what is Agdistis in Greek mythology, right?" And I basically said that, oh, Agdistis, that's a hermaphrodite. Oh my god, this word is so annoying to say. Hermaphroditic god, which basically means that it's a god who has the genitalia of both man and a woman. And Jin was kind of laughing about it, like, because yeah, it's a good meme. Now the significance of that is that in Hellenic beliefs, or the way they saw something having the genitalia of both, it was seen as kind of a symbolism of having a perfect union between man and woman, essentially, because you own both genitalia. So it's like a very beautiful thing, because it's as I said, a perfect union between the two. And so the ideology was, okay, these two beings are so compatible to each other that they're the same individual. And you can definitely see how that ties into Athena and Lahabrea as well. And it's obviously interesting that Agdistis is the one who is the most privy to the relationship between those two, right? So I think that's the significance of Agdistis' name. She's basically there to tell us that these two, they were so in tune with each other that they might as well have been the same person, which they eventually were, because they fused with each other. So hold on, let me reach it. Oh, okay, there's nothing. Okay, so the second thing is that Lahabrea brings up a theory at one point on how to ascend, right? Let's see if I wrote this down here. It was during these musings that I began to formulate a theory, a means by which a person could meld with creation. The weaknesses of one would be mitigated by the strengths of the other, and the result could be something greater than we have ever imagined. So that description of doing that, like the weaknesses mitigating, or like the flaws of the other could be mitigated with the strengths of the other, right? This was like a prevalent thought by some of the ancient Greeks, especially Plato. Plato's view of love was very much this idea that, contrary to how we nowadays have like a very romanticized view of love, which is basically this idea that, oh, there's a perfect soulmate that you have out there. The dudes like thousands of years ago, they had a different idea of love. Plato thought that the perfect partner is someone who who is better than you, that you are kind of flawed in certain ways in comparison to them, and the relationship thus isn't perfect from the onset, but eventually when you two are together, you will make up for the flaws of the other, and you end up developing both of like each other into the best versions of yourselves through those strengths overcoming the flaws of the other. And I think this idea that Habrea is mentioning here between the concept and creation, I think that's very much what's going on here. So it's basically this idea that we have a being that makes up for the other, and I think that's really cool. So finally, the final Greek reference I want to mention is that once again in Hellenic traditions, Hephaestus and Athena were both seen as the perfect pair in a way, because they are both gods of creativity and creation. So that's once again how that comes into play. Now obviously eventually Athena ended up running away from Hephaestus because he was being a creep, but it is worth noting that Athena was fond of him. By the way, I'm talking about the mythology here. It may seem a little confusing because I'm using the names interchangeably. I'm sorry. I don't mean to confuse you guys. But so yeah, I just so to wrap this up, like I love this theme. I love this theme of like love and of creation. It's very cool and it's very fitting to Greek mythology. And I think it shows. I think Endwalker in general, kind of Shadowbringers too, to an extent, shows that the developers, the writers, they really did their research in regards to like ancient Greek mythology. I think that's awesome because I love ancient Greek, and it's just really cool to see developers who really care, you know, and they have all this passion and they can insert these cool allusions to mythology from thousands of years ago. I love that a lot, and in fact, guys, I actually planned at one point to have like an entire video series where I would like go over some of the mythology in this game, and I knew from the like if I ever made such a series, the very first video would for sure be about ancient Greek. And that video would probably be like an hour long or something crazy. Unless I split it into parts. But yeah, man, I would be excited to talk more about this stuff, because I'm also being kind of I'm being very I'm trying to TLDR this to an extent as well, because there's still other things for us to talk about. So I would love to one day just sink deep into this topic, right? So I think now would be a good time to talk about the Savage a bit. So let me just text, right? Let me just insert some text here. Bada bam, bada bim, bada boom. There we go. Savage spoilers. So if there's any of you guys in the chat who maybe still want to do the Savage tier blind, you don't want to see it, just unmute it, and when I remove this tag, that's when we stop talking about Savage. So last time we went into the Savage fight, and we had like this fun little episode where I was able to figure out the mechanic, or like we tried to see if I could solve the mechanic, because there's like this entire riddle mechanic in Savage. And yeah, it was pretty fun. I have a video about that if you guys want to see. But to recap what happens in the Savage fight, essentially the boss is casting something called Ego Death. And what happens after Ego Death is you have to survive it by combining a fire concept with a bird concept, and thus create a firebird, and aka a phoenix. And that's how you survive the mechanic, which I thought was really cool. That was awesome. Now I do want to preface this by saying that I should have said this at the start. I'm sorry, but the lore in Savage is not canon. So like what happened in reality is all of the things you see in Savage is just a speculation of the Lalafen lady, the scientist, simply just speculating. What if Hephaestus tried to create a phoenix, right? So it's not really canon, but it's still interesting to speculate on the symbolism and like the significance of the Savage, even though it's not canon per se, right? It's still interesting to talk about this stuff. So I think so. Now I'm going to intertwine this a bit by talking about the MSQ for a bit, if you don't mind. So let's talk about Endwalker MSQ. I think one of the themes in Endwalker, like there are a lot of themes we can discuss about Endwalker, so let's not get too deep into it here. But I think one of the ideas that Endwalker wants to sell us is that immortality is bad, because we kind of see this over and over in the story. So the let me see from my notes, where did I put this down here? So the very first thing is it's viewed from 3 angles, I want to say, or no, maybe even 4. So the first angle it's viewed from is the ancients. Now the ancients were immortal beings, but they eventually lost their humanity. Why? Because of apathy. And to quote Kreia from Star Wars, apathy is dead. Sorry, broken English. Apathy is death. And so basically what happened to the ancients is they couldn't move on. They wanted to stay in the past and thus became apathetic. And that was their downfall, essentially. And in the... Sorry, I blanked out. What is the name of the final dungeon of Endwalker? Dead Ends, is it called? Final Ends, Dead Ends? In the final dungeon of Endwalker, we actually see what would have happened to the ancients, because it's the last portion of that dungeon, right? Where you see the Sphinx going around and absorbing everyone, and they're happy to be in bliss. That would have basically been the ancients had nothing changed. Like the game very heavily implies that's the case, right? So we see through the ancients that immortality is bad. Now the next thing we see that immortality is bad is through Omega, or more specifically the Omicrons, because the Omicrons managed to circumvent their mortality by basically becoming robots. Like they kind of downloaded their consciousness onto an AI, and thus they could overcome death. But the problem we see with this is that, you quite obviously lose your humanity. You become a robot, and they, I think we'll probably be seeing this in the Omicron Beast tribe. They're probably gonna explore this a bit more. But we also see it in the Omega story. If you guys haven't done it, there's like this Omega story you can do it after the MSQ. And it really well talks about this, like Omega is struggling to understand the heart and like what makes a human. So that's something they lost because they did that. Now the most significant angle that immortality is viewed from are the air that we see. So the air, where this super scientific race, like they were so smart that they managed to overcome basically immortality and they could just live forever. But even they realized that eventually there will be a heat death of the universe. So even they who managed to live forever realized that it's eventually going to come to an end. Now the funny thing about the air is that, like my friend pointed out to me after Endwalker about this, is that we know time travel exists in this setting, which they never managed to utilize, which is interesting. But okay, but let's ignore that aspect. But and just say that the air are the most they represent basically the most scientifically advanced thing in the FF14 universe, and even they couldn't overcome death because they realized, eventually unless you can somehow time travel to avoid, or you can escape the universe or something, well, the universe itself is going to end. So what you're gonna do, right? Now, so how this ties into Savage is that I believe one way to interpret ego death, as I talked about in my video, I talked about this idea of theosis, becoming one with God. And thus, if you become one with God, you lose your identity of self. Because the way this ties into Athena and Lahabrea's like idea is that he talks about the idea of melding concept / creation with an ancient. And we can see that from the viewpoint of the concepts or the creations, from their viewpoint, the ancients are essentially gods. And this is made very clear in Elpis through Hermes especially, how he dislikes how they basically are playing God to these creations. And obviously also not so subtly is how all the ancients are named after Greek gods, right? So this kind of ties into that. So the idea is that, yes, you can be... Athena managed to... So her method of immortality doesn't result in apathy. It doesn't result in you losing your humanity. It doesn't result... Well, it also doesn't take the heat death into account. But there is one flaw with this idea still. Even still, you lose something because, see, when you combine this, the spirit of the creation, and thus you have the whole idea of theosis, right? Because the creation becomes closer to God, aka the ancient. Well, you are still going to lose your identity of self, right? You commit ego death. I think that's one interpretation for what that cast means, because, and that is so funny that there's just no way to become immortal in FF14. You know, you either have ego death, the end of the universe, or whatever, right? You always lose, and I think this is very interesting because in the real world, you guys can Google this if you want. Ironically, but there is like an entire division at Google, or like this project at Google. It's called like the what was it called, like the Google Immortality team or something like that. And there are people right now in our world who believe that they are close to gaining immortality, that there is some way, we don't know the details. It's either downloading your consciousness, kind of like the Omicrons did, ironically, or you can somehow halt the aging of your DNA or something, that in one way or another, you will not age, and thus you can be immortal as well, obviously, as long as someone doesn't smoke you. So this this idea, and obviously this idea of humanity, like wanting to achieve immortality, this is not originally unique to Endwalker. Like, this is a very common story trope that is seen a lot. And as I said, you know, it is something that literally scientists right now in the real world are wanting to accomplish. So but it's still a very cool message of Endwalker. You know, Endwalker is basically telling us, hey, how would I phrase this? Basically, nothing lasts forever. Like, at some point you will have to let go and, you know, accept the death, basically. I know I'm sounding really edgy right now, but my apologies. But I found this was one of the themes of Endwalker, and I feel like this raid series is kind of further conveying that message, because what this raid series shows us essentially is that even in a society like the ancients, there was still a person like Athena who said, no, this is not enough. We only live forever right now. Not enough. I want to ascend beyond that still. And this is a concept that is, once again, in many literature, the first book that Tolkien released. In it, we see the humans. How did the story go again? I think it was the the humans were upset that the elves live forever, so the gods let the humans live for 1,000 years, or like specific humans, and that just made the humans more upset, because it's like, well, I still have to die after 1,000 years, right? It's not enough, and this idea of Athena wanting to achieve like godhood through the hemi-theos, just again, it kind of falls into that same kind of story idea. Now, if you want to, okay, so granted, I'm reading a lot into this. A much simpler explanation for what ego death means in the context of... Oh, sorry, I also forgot to mention Phoenix. Obviously, Phoenix is a symbol of immortality in Greek mythology. And that also ties into this, because Athena wanted to create the Phoenix, supposedly. And that would have been a creation of true immortality. So, a much more simplistic, and to be fair, I think this is probably what the developers wanted most people to believe, or like, this was the main intention, because I think it's kind of a double meaning. The one I mentioned is the more subtle meaning. The more obvious is that ego death. Well, it just simply means that it refers to how Mahabharata destroyed his identity of self, right? Because when he created Hephaestus and sealed Hephaestus, he basically lost a lot of his identity. Like he says it himself, all that remained was Mahabharata, the guy who is committed to his duty, right? So he essentially committed ego death when he did that, right? I think that's the more obvious, I think, meaning of that cast. I just wanted to bring this up because I found the choice of word or like the mechanic very interesting, like ego death, and I think it's a really cool mechanic. I think I want to make a video at some point discussing like some of the riddle mechanics in FF14. If you guys might be interested in that at some point. But yeah, so that's pretty much. I think we're done talking about savage spoilers, so we can remove this tag. So I know what you guys think about that, but yeah, that's what I believe this story is basically about 3 things. Like I think it's themed. Like now talking about the themes of the Pandæmonium story, right? I think the themes are 1, immortality is, or how would I phrase this actually? Immortality is stupid, basically, is one of the messages. Number 2 is that it has a theme of creation, and number 3 is it has a theme of love, which is kind of like duh, but you know, there are so many references to ancient Greek and love in FF14. I mean, for Christ's sake, in Shadowbringers, right, when you fight the Light Wardens, they're all named after like different Greek ideas of love, right, and stuff like that. And that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I think the Greek references are so on point. Oh my goodness. Man, I've been talking non-stop for like ages now. So, now, to recap the characters a bit, should I do... Because I talked about this in part 1, but you know, just in case you guys are interested in like a recap, I was talking about this last time, so talking about the characters of this story, I kind of feel bad for Erichthonius and Elidibus both, because everyone is just loving Mahabharata, and a lot of people are also concentrating on Athena. I think a lot of people are forgetting these 2 characters. But I love Elidibus in this. I think Elidibus is he has like some very touching moments with your character, like when he admits that he fully trusts in you and all this stuff, and we can really see the friendship blossom between the warrior of light and Elidibus, which I think is going to be very tragic when, because we know what happens to him, and we know that, well, he's gonna lose his memories, and that's the promise he mentions in Shadowbringers. I think that's going to come into play. So I'm kind of dreading seeing the conclusion with Elidibus, because it's probably going to make me cry, let's be honest. So that's my view on Elidibus. Lahabrea, I liked his portrayal as like this kind of a flawed dad. We kind of saw that in Walker, didn't we? Because we also had Fortuno. So he kind of reminded me of that. And it's actually kind of interesting that Fortuno will be part of this raid series now. Because, you know, he appears at the end. So it seems like a common theme as well in Walker, you know, like talking about parenthood. And so Lahabrea is like this interesting mix of a guy who's very devoted to you know his duty, but he's also it's interesting to see the struggle he has with his family, because you know obviously at the start we see him and we're kind of like, well, this guy's an asshole, you know, towards his own son, and as someone who lacked a father growing up, that was kind of relatable in a way to me, that Lahabrea was kind of an absent father. But then we find out that, oh, okay, he had his reasons, and in the end, I don't know about you guys, but I think he actually did manage to kind of like Fortuno, kind of managed to redeem himself a bit, because, you know, in the end, he did support his son. And I think at the end, he even says something like, I think he actually calls him his son, and like, which is obviously very significant, because he refused to acknowledge him as such before. And yeah, he's like acknowledging his merits. And so yeah, Lahabrea, a very fun character. I also love the bit where he talks about Azem, because he basically, I love this that we managed to see more of kind of the politics, if you want to call it, between the convocation members. So Lahabrea is someone who is very dedicated, very devoted to the convocation and the ancient society, because he's the speaker. He has basically the most important role in the convocation. And as we established at the start, or like reminded you guys, that the ancients are a society, civilization very much revolving around collectivism. It makes a lot of sense that Lahabrea would be kind of viewing Azem in a negative light, because he kind of says it openly. He straight up tells you that, oh, Azem, yeah, I'm not really fond of him, because, well, I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, he basically says he's not very fond of Azem because he kind of, Azem's kind of, he uses Vena as an example as well, that they act on their emotion a lot, and they also do kind of selfish things. And it kind of makes sense, because Azem is that kind of a role, that kind of a seat within the convocation. It is somewhat more selfish by nature, obviously. So yeah, it makes sense that there's some friction between these two, like Lahabrea and Azem, because when you think about it, they're like complete opposites of each other in their purpose. So I love to see that. The reason I like that a lot is because so far all the characters we talked to, like the ancients, Vena, Hythmodeus, Enlidibus, and Emet-Selk, obviously, they all speak of Azem very fondly, right? They're all yeah, they're very fond of him. And even Hermes, you know, at the end, he says, like, he's sorry that he has to do this for you. Like, even he liked, who was supposedly Azem's familiar. So it's refreshing to see someone like Lahabrea who reacts a bit more, who has a bit more of a critical view of Azem. Though obviously he does still, he's not disrespecting Azem though, because he does straight up. Oh wait, I think the music stopped. Oh my god, I didn't loop it. I'm an idiot. My bad. So what happened, like sorry, I lost my train of thought. So what happened with Lahabrea, right, is that he's judging Azem, but he's still respectful towards him, because well, I say him, I should say, because Azem is not gender neutral basically, but so he's still acknowledging Azem's deeds when he says that they came up with a familiar that he couldn't have created, or he didn't know was even possible, which is of course funny because Azem didn't create this familiar, but technically Enlidibus did, I suppose, if you want to think about it that way. But yeah, so he's not being a cunt towards Azem is what I mean, but it's still interesting to see that little like view. And we also saw Elidibus use his power as emissary in action, which I found interesting too. It really shows that Elidibus has a lot of power in the convocation, and we see that reflected in the FF14 story as well. Like Elidibus has a lot of sway in how the Ascians operate and what they do. So that was very interesting to see. And the way Elidibus resolved that conflict, he basically challenges Lahabrea because Lahabrea wants to destroy Pandæmonium, right? And that makes a lot of sense. Like, I remember someone asking me, like, yo, isn't Lahabrea kind of cold for wanting to destroy the Pandæmonium? And I'm like, no, that makes perfect sense to me, because for Lahabrea, there's only bad memories in Pandæmonium. And now let's not forget that the person he created Pandæmonium for used it for nefarious ends. So it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you wanna eat that? So he has actually a pretty personal reason to demolish Pandæmonium, but it is also a logical reason, because he kind of saw Hegemone and Agdistis as like beyond saving, because they were corrupted by Athena / Hephaestus' experiments. So yeah, Elidibus and Lahabrea, they're both very cool characters. I enjoyed them a lot. And Ericthonius, I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. And Athena, the way Athena is being set up, I think she's being set up as a pretty cool villain as well. So I think character-wise, Abyssos story is also a pretty good... Like, keep in mind, guys, this is still an optional story. And for an optional story, this has a lot in offer. I think it's pretty PogChamp. And originally the purpose of this story is to tell us it's the main purpose of the story is to go more into Lahabrea, because obviously Lahabrea got mega cucked by the way, you know, that he was handled in A Realm Reborn, because back then they didn't know what to do with the Ascians. So Lahabrea never got an interesting story, so this is kind of trying to fix that. And it's kind of going into Elidibus as well, which I thought was pretty smart. And yeah, I think one hope I have, I mentioned this last time, I hope at this some point in this story we will get to see the Sundering from the point of view of either Lahabrea or Emet-Selch or of Elidibus. Basically, I want another perspective of the Sundering than, because currently the only perspective we have is Venas. So I think it would be interesting to have another perspective. But I don't know if this story will go that far, like to show that, but I'm just kind of hoping. But yeah, I did have some funny thoughts about this story, like, can you imagine that, you know, the Pandæmonium pops up in the interior sea, right? And because Emet-Selch has a strong affinity with the live stream, obviously, because, you know, he's Hades and everything, and it's been shown many times that, yeah, he has very strong affinity. Emet-Selch would kind of notice that, and Hythlodeus both, and they would kind of both be like, hey, what's going on here? And then Hythlodeus basically tries to have Emet-Selch look into it, and he's like, nah, man, I'm just gonna stay out of this. I just kind of found that thought amusing, like Emet-Selch's reaction to all this shit going down, and him being like, nah, man, miss me with that, you know. So I think we've just about covered everything, right? We talked about the fights in the last part. We talked about characters. We talked a lot about Theorycrafting and some symbolism. I think that's about it, right? So I think, though, don't worry. I think we'll still be talking more about Pandæmonium in the future on this channel. In fact, I know for a fact when the final tier comes out, I want to make a character analysis on both Elidibus and Lahabrea, because I'm so excited to get into, you know, properly analyze these characters from like all the way from the beginning until this, and put it all into context, right? That's going to be really fun, and there's definitely going to be more content when the last tier comes out. But obviously right now when we talk about the Pandæmonium story, it's still way speculative, right? Because, you know, it's still ongoing, so this Abyssos story brought so many, it brings some answers, but it brought like twice the amount of questions that it did answers, so, which I think is good, you know, it just makes us excited for more, but yeah, I hope you guys were enjoying the Abyssos story as much as I did, because it was really a blast, and I think it might be pretty much one of the best like raid stories we have right there alongside like Bahamut and stuff, right? That is of course assuming the finale is going to be satisfying, which I think it will be. I think this definitely has the resources to be a very satisfying conclusion to the story. So, and you know, in a way, you know, it also wraps up the Zodiac Eidolon story, right? Because we learn what happened to Mahabreya and Elidibus and all that. So pretty awesome, pretty awesome. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought about the Abyssos story. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? And yeah, that's about it. So as always, we stream here at 5 p.m. GMT every Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And next week, I said this week would be a special episode. Next week is the actual special episode, I promise. It has to be next week. There's no way I'm gonna miss it again. But what was the Mahabreya that week? Okay, so Cupcake, you kind of missed it. So I'm gonna address this real quick at the end. But we're talking about the Theorycrafting aspect towards the beginning, so you can kind of, if you want, go back and see it. But I'll explain it briefly, because we brought that up. So yeah, it's pretty heavily implied that this Mahabreya that we interact with in A Realm Reborn is the one corrupted by Hephaestus's memories, essentially, and Athena's memories, in some way, right? The most sensible theory I've heard so far is that in order to prevent the final days and summon Zodiac, Mahabreya had to make use of Hephaestus's memories, because he wasn't able to come to like a way of doing that otherwise. So that's like one possibility for what happened there, and that's why he is so cray in the raid, not in the raid, sorry, in A Realm Reborn and Heavensward. But yeah, sorry, I was wrapping up. So yeah, next week is the special episode. I can mention some brief detail about it. It's basically you'll see some other guests than Jin or Velvet. Like, it will be other people. That's basically the secret. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I would recommend that you guys stick around for that. It's the same time next week, Sunday. So I think that's about it. Thanks for showing up for my rambling. And I'm sorry for not as much interaction this time, because yeah, it was really scuffed, because I had to last minute make other plans, because the original plans were well, real life happened, you know, shit happens, unfortunate, but that's just how it is sometimes. But I'm glad I was still able to do something with this stream, and I was definitely happy to gush more about Abyssos, because man, I love this story. And as I said, if I had to take one thing and say here at the conclusion at the end, the main thing I love about this story are probably the way they handled the Greek mythology. As I said, I'm just a huge sucker for that stuff, and I think it's awesome. So they clearly did their homework. And but on that note, thanks y'all for watching, and I'll see you next week with the special guests I mentioned. Yep. So see ya.